Mark, what I'll do is I'm going to put everyone on mute except for you. Are you okay with that?
You're there. I said to your mom, I thought I saw you. All I could see was your.
Just give me a second. Let me just fix it. Yeah, I think we still have a couple minutes left.
How's the audio now? You can hear me better?
I might. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, Joe, we can see the screen up here, but for some reason it's not, I can't hear anyone.
Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me, Mark? I guess not, because I don't see a response.
Wait a second here.
Okay.
I might have to call an audible here and send out another. I know everyone else could hear me, but us in this room, we can't hear anything going on right now. With last time we did.
Okay. And you got your volume up on all your devices?
Just give me a second while I work through this, guys. So, like everyone else can be heard, they can hear us. The technical difficulties, so just bear with me, okay? We're gonna get going. Everybody, can we please just stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. We are working our way through the stuff here. I just wanted to do a new member welcome. So any new members, if online on the Zoom, if you could, unmute yourself if you haven't. This is your first meeting. We have a new member here, Marty Abrams from Herrick's. So everybody, this is Marty Abrams from Herrick's. Everybody, welcome. All right. So, welcome all new members. I'm going to ask for an approval of the minutes of our October 7th meeting. Tim, thank you. Is there a second? Thanks, Bob. Bob Pape seconded. Any discussion? No. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any abstentions? So moved. Thank you. Again, I want to Thank everybody for your patience today. Today we do have a special guest speaker. Dr. Volpe is a clinical psychologist and school psychologist. He is executive director of East End Psychological Services, PC, a group practice with offices in Miller Place and Comac. He's been a school psychologist for 27 years at Farmingdale High School. Dr. Volpe has an extensive clinical expertise in the assessment and treatment of traumatic stress and post-traumatic stress disorder. Dr. Volpe holds an appointment as an adjunct full professor at Hofstra University in the School of Health Professions and Health Services. Dr. Volpe is co-author of a practical guide for university crisis response and a practical guide for crisis response in our schools. Dr. Volpe also holds a position as admissions liaison officer for the United States Air Force Academy. So without further ado, I introduce to you Joseph Volpe.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you for inviting me on probably the most stressful day of the year to speak about stress management. I want to welcome all of you. Let me make a few switches here. I'm going to share my screen. Just give me 1 second, please.
Hold on.
All right. I'm guessing you can all see that. I hope. I'm hoping you can all see that. All right. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Those are all my affiliations. I appreciate the kind words, the introduction. I appreciate that. So yes, I stay pretty busy as a clinical director of a practice with 6 offices. With all the years that I've been doing this, this is probably one of the toughest times I have found myself doing my profession in the clinical realm. In the school realm, yes, as a school psychologist now 28 years, we're dealing with anxiety, depression, things off the charts. And that's just the staff and faculty. Factor in the parents, administration. And I got to say, Farmingdale's doing an amazing job under incredibly stressful times. Every day, we're dealing with different little things that creep up. Yes, Hofstra, I have had this position a few years where I teach actually in the graduate program on the School of Health Professions and Human Services, and traumatic stress, stress management, crisis intervention, psychopathology. Those are all my classes, specialty areas. And I've held this position here with the Air Force Academy now for the last couple of years. I like I said, keep myself real busy. I have a son who's a graduating cadet this May. In addition to this, I also serve as a deputy commander of a squadron of Civil Air Patrol, where I'm also a small unmanned aerial system drone mission pilot for New York Wing. I hold the grade of major. So yes, I keep busy. It is self-imposed. It is my own fault. But when it comes to talking about stress management, our anxiety, these are areas that I've specialized in, and I appreciate the opportunity. It is important to me to get the message out. So if you take a moment and you want to measure your stress level, think about it. We are in a very unique time. If you're like me, sometimes you wake up and you wonder if this is a bad dream. Maybe you are just imagining that this is happening. Oh, hold on a second. Sorry about that. You know, this doesn't seem real. And I think that's a very common reaction. I hear this among my patients, as well as the staff that I work with. Doesn't seem real. So if you actually take a moment and rate your stress level, you could see that if you're at number 1, you don't need this presentation. You're doing great. Or 0 even. But for the most part, once you start moving up to the 6, 7, 8 range, on days you may feel extreme stress, maybe the highest levels. One of the things we don't want to see is you maintain those levels of stress over time. Now, a little bit about the uniqueness of COVID-19 and dealing with a pandemic. For the most part, unless some of you were around in 1918, I'm positive none of you were, um, we didn't really ever have any experience with this. So this event kind of comes out of us. It comes to us out of nowhere. It's unfamiliar. It's uncharted territory. By definition, some would call it a traumatic stressor. We're kind of left working, building the plane as it's in the air, as they say, not really sure what to do. And this involves us who are obviously working directly in the front line, those who are supervising others. It puts us in a very unique situation. So whether you've worked from home or you recently returned to the workplace or you've never left your workplace, or you've stayed in those trenches, the fear and the anxiety may have become somewhat of a part of your everyday life. But how often do we really take the time to evaluate the stress that we're feeling? You know, are there better ways that we can handle it? And would you even know if your stress was getting to that point where you need to be more concerned? So that's the first step. You got to take a step back and ask yourself, how stressed am I? Are you too busy taking care of the world? You forget about yourself. So learning to recognize those symptoms, that's key. And that's, one of the first things we want to certainly start out with here. I know I have a finite amount of time to talk to you, but I want to try and get out some key points during that time. So realize this, you may have heard of that fight or flight response. When you're confronted with a stressful situation, your brain kicks in. Your brain was wired, our brains have been developed to allow us to respond to stress. And that's a good thing. However, for the most part, the brain wants to get you calmer. And there's a mechanism that would kick in. So you've heard of fight or flight. So basically, all those body systems kick in to fight the stress. But what happens if the stress doesn't go away? It sticks around. And that's when we start to become concerned. If we start to get adapted to the stress, we could ultimately get to that point of complete exhaustion. And if you're there, it's important you recognize it because we want to get you out of there. In fact, we want to make sure you don't get there in the first place. And that's important. And that's, by the way, when we talk about fight or flight, you're either going to fight, you're going to confront, or you're going to run. Our goal here is to help you address that way before you get to that point. What if it goes on day after day, seemingly like a pandemic? This is what we're dealing with right now. So by definition, it started out as a traumatic stressor, but it's starting to really feel and become a chronic stressor. And what does that do? It really threatens us. It threatens our health, our well-being, the people we try to care for, the people we supervise, the people we monitor, the people we try to help, the people we are living with. We're all impacted. So a common group of symptoms that we will see, I'm just going to go ahead and put myself in there so you can see. I don't know if you've been able to see me. I think you have. Some of the common symptoms that we'll see are the irritability and the outbursts of anger. Sometimes we will go ahead and we'll turn to some of those things that aren't as healthy. And, you probably know levels of stress that become to the point where we have to do something. We turn to things that have worked in the past. Yeah, food, drugs, alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, sugar. We know carbohydrates reduce our stress quickly. They increase serotonin, a brain chemical. But we also want to make sure that we are adapting the right way. Now, again, let me just go back to some of the things that we miss. All right, let me go back to this slide again. All right. In terms of what you need to pay attention to, irritability, anger outbursts, short fused, increased or changes in alcohol, tobacco, or drug use, substance abuse, any things that can help calm us down. Feelings of uncertainty, nervousness, anxiety in general. Feeling tired, fatigued, overwhelmed, lacking motivation, lacking energy, wanting to be alone, difficulty sleeping. This is really a big one. We found this is probably insomnia, one of the key things we're finding clinically. And we're seeing this not only with adults, we're seeing with kids. Your routine, when your routine is thrown off, it throws off what we call our circadian rhythm. You're off. You're not going to sleep when you normally do, or you're staying up all night because you can't fall asleep. Then you're trying to function during the day. And then you get these periods where you're extremely exhausted. And even to the point where even in a meeting, hopefully not right now, you get microbursts of sleep. Your brain wants to sleep. And that's, of course, puts you in a bad spot. You'll have difficulty concentrating. With that, headaches, stomach aches, dizziness, excess worrying. And if this turns into sadness or despair, we've stepped over the threshold. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. All right. So again, keep in mind, this is when we're moving into a more of a danger zone if it gets to that point. All right. What has this pandemic created? Well, besides some unhealthy habits, we've seen struggles in relationships. We've seen the difficulty of trying to change up our or acclimate to our routine. So the bottom line is life has changed. We're responding to it. Our feelings of isolation, our struggle with trying to get used to something that is incredibly beyond the grain. By the way, we have seen increases in domestic violence, substance abuse, compulsive behaviors, and the bottom line is our life changed. We've even seen raises in the calls to child protective services. I mean, people are overwhelmed. And of course, you've heard of these things. You know about isolation. Perhaps you've experienced some of this cabin fever at some point. The quarantining, the mask fatigue, the pandemic fatigue, just sick and tired of hearing about pandemics and its effect on people. You turn on the news too much. And so you may be getting to that place where it's just overwhelming. And I don't know about you. I mean, I happen to be a news junkie, and I find this to be a colossal error. Turning on the news, you start your day with 1010 wins or 880. Throughout the day, you got the news on, and then you go ahead and you get, to the afternoon, the evening, the news is on, and then you end your day with the news. And then in between, you're reading this, reading that. You're bombarded with information. And so we have to understand, how much are we taking in? Is it good for us? Is it healthy for us? And you got to ask yourself, is it going to really make an impact in a negative way for you? So this lays out some of that groundwork. All right. Stress is significant. Stress can be adaptive. Too much stress is a bad thing. So what do we do here? Do we let it take control of us? Do we let it affect us? Do we let it essentially take us hostage? Let me just fix this. I'm sorry about that. Let me modify that, man. Sometimes the slides just want to roll around here. Okay, we just fixed that. So we talk about self-care as one of those important things. Overexposure would be one of the first things we got to start to look at. But you've given yourself hopefully a number on that stress scale. And there are things you can do to lower your number on the stress scale. And paying attention to ourselves is so important. We tend to focus on everyone around us, our families, the people we work with, people we work for. We hear about this situation, we hear about that. And honestly, it is probably one of the biggest mistakes we can make, because we then forget about ourselves. But in general, there are a lot of things we can do. And I mean, finding ways to exercise, tip of the iceberg. All right. We know exercise directly can change the good brain chemicals. It can increase one of the main ones involved with movement, dopamine. It's a feel-good chemical. By the way, just getting out and getting some sunlight, some fresh air. One of the complications we're seeing right now clinically, on top of COVID isolation and COVID fatigue, is the fact that we have shorter days. We see a whole lot of people with seasonal affective disorder. So they literally, as we move into this particular period of time, they slip into more irritability and depression with darker days, less sunlight, less fresh air. So we got to try to maximize our time out when we can. It does make a difference. I'm going to talk a little bit more about healthy food choices later, because that actually can impact stress levels. Sleep and staying connected. So these are some of the things I'm going to come back to as I move through the talk. These are some of the things you more generally hear about, but I want to get into a little bit more of the detail. The biggest challenge that we found clinically also, and I saw this certainly with a lot of the parents that I talked to, is sticking to a routine. All of a sudden, now your kids are home, and by the way, it's not just kids in high school or elementary or middle school, college kids. Yeah, everyone was home, put together for the first time, and I had a college kid home, and honestly, it changed my life. I was kind of used to having everybody out, and it was a little stressful after a while. Um, but trying to get to stick to a routine, the biggest challenge we found was when kids were home now and they had to be educated through virtual learning, and this balance of parents who were still trying to work, parents who were dealing with their elders, perhaps their family, as well as dealing with employees, coworkers, friends. And it was just piling up. Plus, boom, you turn on the news and you're hearing about all the deaths, especially the way it was impacting our community in March and April when it was at its high, some of its highest points. And now, of course, the fear is trickling back in. Where are we heading with this? We're hearing more and more about some changes here, right where we thought we were safe in New York. Trying to stick to a routine is challenging, but we got to do the best we can. Yes, you could follow the COVID regulations. You can wash your hands, you can go ahead and socially distance and do all those things, and that's all good. But the question is, are you going to be able to keep some kind of routine and make yourself feel healthy? So some of these things you want to try to think about. Now, honestly, some of these techniques here, some of these solutions, solution number one, we'll call it stress relaxing. Now, these are some of these may seem very basic, but you know what? The reality is you build some of these things into your routine. And I'll be honest with you, I wish I had built some of these things into my routine years ago. And when I got out and was practicing psychology, I would have totally minimized some of these things because you know what? I don't know where the science is behind that. And I came out of graduate school, and once I did my postdoc and started practicing psychology, one of the number one things I started treating was stress. But I didn't get into some of these things that we talk about now. I would have never recommended to a patient massage or aromatherapy. I would, these are just, or drawing, or even work, being around pets or animals. But I can tell you now firsthand, and with many more years of experience doing this work, simple things you take for granted, just getting outside and working on a garden, even you could do that inside, reading, building in some kind of projects, home improvement, maybe a funny movie and humor. I'll talk about more in a second. But even drawing or painting or something creative, ask yourself, what do you enjoy doing? And carve out how you can build that into your routine. Okay, no, look, most of us are not going to go, well, I'll just speak for myself. I don't see myself on the floor doing yoga in a lotus position. Not going to happen. I don't have people around me to help get me up. But the reality is, we can lower those bad chemicals that maintain our stress, that wear us down. If we can start to change our routine, ask yourself, what do you enjoy doing? And make an effort to try to build this into your life. So it's one of the simplest, one of the most neglected. Now, a little bit more on physical activity. Look, the reality is this: when people were home, the goal was to try to get people busy and increasing those good brain chemicals. We know that dopamine makes a huge difference, and movement increases dopamine, endorphins, and all the good brain chemicals, what we call the feel good chemical. Dopamine keeps you alert. It keeps you focused when you're trying to, when you're getting distracted. It keeps you in a good place. It's also a part of our reward system that's wired into our brain system. By the way, be cautious here. The dopamine system is also involved with various substances, from chocolate to other substances, even some more illicit substances. So we can easily go down that path, and some people will because it'll give them a quick feel good experience. But in the long run, we know the habit forming potential for that. Needless to say, we talk about proactive ways of increasing good brain chemicals, dopamine, serotonin. I'll talk about another one a little bit later, oxytocin. That's about being around good, healthy people and good relationships. If you could create some kind of way of getting physical, even if you're home, or obviously in between, if you can walk a little more, you can get up, work at your desk, stand up a little more, even a push up here and there, some kind of exercise routine movement. We saw a lot of people who went into a full-fledged depression when they couldn't go into their own gym. They were so used to it. They finally got to a gym. It took them to the end of January to finally get motivated to go to a gym. They finally start. They get their fitness, LA fitness routine going, and boom, early March, they're shut down. And now they go into a tailspin. They had all their plans ruined. Um, that doesn't mean you can't build things in even while you're home. And so now that we're back, many of us are working from home or doing a mix of both. And the recommendation is obviously figure out a way to do some physical stuff, even if it means standing at your desk, doing some squats before you sit down. It may sound a little silly, but honestly, it actually makes a big difference, worthy of exploring. Now, breathing and meditation, you've heard of this before. Meditation has been around a long time, has its roots literally in Eastern treatments and Eastern philosophy treatments. Headspace happens to be an app that builds in ways to help you meditate. You also are hearing a lot about this word mindfulness now. So the reality is mindfulness is something that's been around for years. I remember early on in my career, actually before even graduating, I remember doing mindfulness work with the administration at Hofstra University, the vice provost, the Department of Academic Affairs, a graduate student, and he was very into mindfulness. And he was really trying to get us all into it. This is probably the early 90s. And so we started actually doing support groups, and we would sit around in a circle with these leaders of the university, and we would get them into a place where they would stop thinking about all the problems that happened yesterday in the past month and try to get them to stop focusing on all the problems coming down the road, what they expect to happen in the future. Not an easy thing. Mindfulness really is about just taking the step and getting into the middle of it. And I'm going to talk, I'll emphasize that a little more in a second. But with breathing, you can meditate. So I mentioned mindfulness as a preview to what I'm going to talk about in 1 second. But breathing is the simplest thing you'll do. It goes right hand in hand with other forms of meditation, including mindfulness. With breathing, you're literally just taking a deep breath, whether it's with your mask on. You don't really have many options these days, but in through your nose, let your brain get some of that O2 it needs. Do it 4 times slowly and out through your mouth. It's what we call a diaphragmatic breath. Diaphragmatic breathing has been shown to clip the escalation of anxiety. People hate doing public speaking. People hate doing, they get tasked with having to speak to their boss. It's a tough time. This actually has been shown to calm them down. Tightening the muscles and releasing them, this tensing and releasing, tightening up your facial muscles, relaxing them, tightening up your fists and relaxing them. That muscle tension release process has been around a long time and has been well established to literally help reset stress levels. Where can we do them? Anywhere. You can do them at work. You can do them at home. You can tighten up your jaw and let it release. And you will see just how tense you are. Sometimes you don't recognize that. So again, sounds a little cliche. Take a deep breath. But we use it to clip people who are going into full-blown crises. And we use it for people who are just looking for basic stress management. And at no time ever has this been more valuable to have some of these tools accessible whenever you need them. So think about that. Where and when could you use these? Very helpful strategies. So, hey, you could take a deep breath, breathing, okay? Now, let me talk a little bit more about mindfulness, becoming aware of your body, your feelings, being in the moment. So what we recommend is try to get your space 15 minutes or so where you can just take some time to just get in the moment. I know, you know what? Again, this was one of those things when I got into my career, I said, come on, really? it seems a little hokey sitting, and now, I got to sit with my feet flat on the ground, my butt on my chair, my back, my posture good, and I'm going to breathe and think about right now, hopefully undisturbed for 15 minutes. Yes. And I wish I recommended it to more patients early on in my career. One of my regrets. However, as time went on and I did more research, I realized just how valuable mindfulness is. Now you hear about it all the time. We're teaching it in the schools. We're teaching it we're using it in even in military training. It's very important and very relevant. So becoming self-aware of your body without judging yourself, being kind, don't pass judgment. Don't let those intruding thoughts take you off track. Just get back to right now and focus on how you feel at that moment with a nice breath. If you want to use some imagery, picture yourself on a warm beach, close your eyes. There's a warm breeze, blue sky, sound of the ocean. It'll put you in a good spot. Does it take practice? It does. Do you get disturbed? Yes. Try to get undisturbed 15 minutes. You could do this at work as long as you have some privacy. It's not a bad thing. Do it on your lunch break. Do it at a place where you won't judge yourself, but you're allow yourself to take a few minutes. Again, focusing on the present. Stop dwelling about the past, what you didn't get to, what you should have done, what you must be doing, and obsessing about the future. Oh, I got to do that. I forgot I got to call this one. I got to get to that meeting. It's all there. It's in your calendar. I'm sure you have a system in place, but bring yourself into the now, what's happening right this moment. And that's what we really kind of refer in a nutshell to being mindful and this process of mindfulness. Again, your body is present, but is your mind? And by the way, you can do this when you're doing things like washing your hands or doing the dishes. We even talk about mindful eating, taking your time to actually put something on your tongue and savor it. If it's a good piece of chocolate, if it's a good piece of beef, fish, whatever, just enjoy it, savor it. All right. If you're like me, you eat too fast, boom, you miss it. You're missing out. You're missing out. And yeah, I've learned at times, especially for an expensive dinner, take your time, enjoy it. Forget about all those things that are distracting you. Take the mind of the moment, the mindfulness seriously. Being present. Positive psychology. We tend to get stuck in negative thinking. And right now, especially, we think about all the worst things that can happen. We worry about our family. We worry about the people we work with, the people we work for. There are some people that no matter what, they are positive thinkers. I know, I hate those people, right? No matter what, they seem to see the good in everything. But we now know in psychology, we used to focus too much on trying to fix negative. But now the emphasis has become this area of what we call positive psychology. It's on positive thinking, positive thoughts. It can make a huge impact on physical and mental health. By the way, this doesn't mean being sort of Pollyannish, ignoring reality. It means basically taking a new approach and reframing, rebooting, positive thinking. Instead of thinking the worst thing is going to happen, perhaps you can see this as an opportunity to make some changes, to make things improve. And two things that go with, and you could see it piggybacks mindfulness, is both optimism and gratitude, this reframing. And by the way, if you fall on dwelling on everything you've done wrong or the what ifs, what if I had done that? What if? You will find this will become very toxic to you and to the people around you because your stress levels will be high. And it goes back to how I started. You'll be irritable, short fused. So think about this. And with that, gratitude. Again, the ability to sort of sit around and be thankful. Um, it's not always easy to feel gratitude. It's not always easy when you're thinking about the day you have ahead of you to just take a moment and look around and see the sunrise on your way to work or sunset or appreciate you got a decent parking spot or that the weather feels good today, or something in your life today is good and right, you know. And look, the reality is counting our blessings is something that we all try to do when we're kind of pushed to it, but to build it actually into your life, Gratitude journaling actually allows you to kind of sit for a moment when you're feeling overwhelmed and think about something great or something good that you're thankful for. You slow down for a minute, you smell the coffee, you value the moment, and you're thinking about every day that something is to be grateful for. If you think every day that your life stinks, no one cares, you have nothing worth being thankful for, you can obviously see where you're going to head into some dangerous territory. That builds hopelessness. It builds a sense of pessimism, leads to bad emotions, negativity, and ultimately depression. The people who I see who are the most depressed don't feel gratitude, don't feel thankful, cannot see anything positive. It's like they put dark sunglasses on. And even when you compliment them and tell them what a great job they're doing, they're still down in the dumps, and it's very hard. By the way, those individuals have gone over this, they've gone over the threshold, and they need professional care at that point. By the way, feeling gratitude, taking that moment to thank your life for what it's given you, but also thanking others. Not only does it make other people feel great, but making other people feel great will help you feel great. And that ultimately helps lower your stress as well. Telling someone they've done a great job, telling the team, great work. It does. It helps you feel good and helps your team feel good. Again, I can tell you this, supervising 12 psychologists who are stressed also, they need to know it. And honestly, it's so easy to forget to be thankful and thank others. Okay? I mentioned it before, being open to humor and giving yourself permission to smile or laugh. Difficult to do during difficult times, but when you laugh, especially if you can laugh a little at life or yourself, you will feel less stressed. You know this guy, right? Okay. So, Rodney said it best. Look out for number one, but don't step in number two. Pay attention to you. That was from Back to School, one of my favorite lines. It's hard when you're taking care of others to look out for number one. I started out this presentation by saying we oftentimes don't look out for ourselves, but we have to. And even on planes, they say you got to put the oxygen on yourself before you give it to other people, children, others. You've got to think about yourself. I'm glad I can show a Rodney image here. I know that when I teach my graduate students and do my workshops for clinical students, they look at me like I have three heads. They never heard of Rodney Dangerfield, and I find that to be very depressing. Laughter helps. In fact, how do we know this? Years ago, back in the 60s, maybe you heard of him, Norman Cousins. He wrote a book, Anatomy of an Illness. He was a patient who was diagnosed with a debilitating illness that actually confined him to his bed and created tons of pain. He was told he was going to deteriorate, and he had a very gloomy prognosis. He didn't want to get into that depressing routine of hospital life. And as it turns out, he worked with a doctor who actually checked him out of the hospital, and he got into a hotel. He got better food, and basically he medicated himself with vitamin C. But add to that, Marx Brothers films, Candid Camera. Remember Alan Funt? Before TikTok and before YouTube, there was Candid Camera. And look it up if you don't know what I'm referring to. Hopefully, I think many of you do. Anyway, Cousins discovered that merely 10 minutes of inducing hearty laughter actually produced about 2 hours of painless sleep. So this was really one of the first to uncover laughter actually increases some of our natural resources, those things built into us. And it proves that it's a very effective healing tool. And never underestimate the importance of humor. With that, where you eat lunch, relaxing with a body scan, like that mindfulness I mentioned, limiting your time with the news. I have it here bolded because it's really easy to not to just go back into your routine of absorbing everything. And I know it's tough, especially when there's so much at stake. Getting outside, listening to music, and I mean really listening, maybe just listen to a bass line or a guitar and really appreciate it. But take some time to discover things you really wanted time for. So I'm gonna just self-disclose. During the COVID thing, as things started to hit the fan, I wanted to get into photographing space. I started 6 years ago, got frustrated, put it away, and that was it. So, at the dismay of my wife, I would vanish for hours outside with a telescope and a few other things. I eventually put together an astrophotography kit where I would disappear for 2 hours, 3 hours a night, to her dismay at times. Um, anyway, I kind of really stunk in the beginning, but as time went on, I was able to produce this. And even got to the point where I had the nerve to get an autograph for it. This was life changing for me personally. And it's been one of those things that now I research and I look forward to in between talking to people about stress, anxiety, depression, suicide. This has become probably one of the best therapies for me personally. So find a hobby. And if you can get out there and do something, you got to go for it. So, again, in sum, let me just go ahead and tell you dietary factors. Don't neglect them. We know there are certain foods now that lower stress and anxiety: avocado, eggs, oatmeal, yogurt, salmon, berries. These things with, with levels of zinc, magnesium, vitamin B, omega-3 fatty acids have actually been shown to keep your anxiety and stress levels in check, as opposed to lots of those fatty, simple carbs, which actually can make things worse for you. They make you more tired and actually can increase your stress levels. So you want to pay attention to dietary factors. By the way, caffeine, not a horrible thing. Too much caffeine will absolutely increase your stress level. Caffeine and nicotine, actually my doctoral research. I spent 2.5 years studying the interactions, not as a smoker, but as a caffeine addict. And I found too much caffeine absolutely problematic. And some people are massive consumers. And we also find that smokers and caffeine use, they tend to go together often. Sleeping habits, very important. Sleep hygiene is critical and honestly can set you into a whole different place if you can help your sleep. Relaxing activities, I just mentioned, critical. Build them in. Physical activity and exercise, breathing, meditation. By the way, there are even apps now that you can use besides Headspace, right built into like the Apple Watch, for example, is an app that it reminds you to breathe. And it's been built into the software for a reason, because it actually makes a difference. Positive thinking, gratitude, humor, music, all really important things to consider. The other thing is this: take the time to reevaluate. This is some pretty serious stuff here, because honestly, if you don't evaluate properly, you run the risk of getting into a depressed mood. You let your stress go unchecked, you move into a bad place. Your motivation changes. You may see crying spells, irritability, continued sleep and eating problems. These are red flags. What can you do? Well, one of the things we talk about, one of the simple things is this: we call safe haven relationships. A trustworthy person to whom you can turn. They will be emotionally available to you. They'll respond to you in a caring manner. They're not going to sit and judge you and criticize you, tell you to just get over it. We got to find that safe haven relationship. It could be a spouse, it could be a friend, it could be someone you work with, some kind of emotional attachment. This is one of the most important mitigators. By the way, we could become more resilient with these types of relationships in our life. Increasing dopamine, increasing serotonin, chemical changes by good social relationships. By the way, this isn't necessarily going, and this is where I feel sorry for a lot of younger people. All they know is Twitter. All they know is instant messaging. The art of communicating with other humans, especially when you could be near them and opening up to them at a very emotional level, is so valuable. And I'm finding more and more people seem to be losing that, or they never found it. That's a whole other lecture on Generation Z and their connectedness to their devices. And who knows how that'll impact socialization as we go on. And by the way, I see it with the 20 somethings, with the students, with the interns. Sometimes I get a little worried. They forget about the value of solid communication and really connecting with people. By the way, if you surround yourself with unhealthy relationships, obviously you get the opposite effect. Toxic relationships increase your stress, and they are very dangerous to you. So reevaluate those relationships. If you have no attachments, that's a problem too. Maybe you don't trust people, and that's bad. So the bottom line here, and that's why I keep it for the end, you need a place to turn. But if you can't find somebody, or in fact, if you feel yourself slipping, you got to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. Don't hesitate. Know your limits. Professional help is there, whether it be through employee assistance, whether it be contact with medical professionals, reaching out to a psychologist, or getting some kind of connection to some professionals. Ask for help before you become hostage to your stress. And those powerful negative effects, if they are left unchecked, will really take your life to a path you don't want to be. All right. So, look, I don't, I didn't have a lot of time here, but I'm going to, certainly take any questions. I'm going to end that part of it here. And I want to take some questions. If you got them, that's the quick synopsis that I had with regard to some of the things you can do. So, if there are questions, I'll be more than happy to take them. You can unmute yourself. You could do whatever you need. I'll be more than happy to answer anything that comes up, because I know some of you are probably having lunch soon. Let me guess.
Are there any questions out there for Joe Volpe?
As I say to my graduate students, I know it was so profound that you have nothing left to ask. So I'm here if you have anything, but if you can always reach out if need to, I'll be more than happy to take any questions, even individually. Mark can certainly share my information. I hope I covered
that,
it.
Joe. Wow, some strong words. And it's very, very profound. It gives us a lot to think about and a lot to ponder. I'm going to be sending this recording, posting it on the website for us to refer back to. But if anyone wants to reach out, let me know and I'll get you in touch with Joe. So Joe, thanks again for taking the time to give us this important information. In our profession, and everyone in this room and on the Zoom knows, a lot of times, like you said before, we're taking care of everybody else. Sometimes we forget about ourselves. So definitely it's very important.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity. Be well, stay healthy.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
All right.
Joe, you're gonna leave us on and we're gonna take care of some business, okay?
Will do.
Thank you.
Got it.
All right. So again, thanks to Joe for speaking. Next on the agenda, I had a finance report. Claudia, do you want to give that real quick while we you have it on your phone or no? All right. I'm sorry, Claudia. Why don't you come over here and do it so everyone can hear you over here?
Mark, do you want this part of the meeting recorded as well?
Who am I talking to?
Mark,
We had an ending balance of $17,351.01. We had income of $1,835, and we had expenses of $817, which leaves our balance at $18,369.01. Thank you.
All right, Claudia, thank you. I'm going to ask my committee chairs. If Lorianne, you're here, you have nothing to offer. Any committee chairs have anything they want to say?
Hey, Mark, it's James. I just want to, well, first let me say what a great job by the guest speaker. I really appreciate the topic and the information. Just real quick on the legislative report, I just wanted the chapter to be aware that we have been contacted by the Nassau County Traffic and Safety Board. The office of the Nassau County Office of Shared Services is in the process of finalizing picking an approved vendor for the Stop Arm Camera Initiative. I just wanted everyone to know that the Traffic Safety Board has reached out to Nassau NIAP to see that our interests dovetail, and they also would like us to be involved in the process and help them communicate to the school districts and the vendors once the camera company is selected, so we can go ahead and get stop arm cameras installed on buses in Nassau County to improve student safety. And I also believe that you will touch on the budget priorities that the NIAP State Board has passed at the last board meeting in your state report. So I thank you.
All right, James, thank you. So yes, I'm going to give my state report and touch on a couple of things here. So we have them. All right. Yep. So James just said that James just spoke about the 2021 NIAP budget priorities. I do have a copy of them here on the table. If we want to, if you need to get a copy, just let me know, and I'll email them out to you so you can take a look at them. Just to go over a couple. Continue to provide us sufficient funding for school transportation services. Provide funding in support of transportation services for universal pre-K. Allow expenditures for school bus monitors to be eligible for transportation aid reimbursement. Maintain funding to the State Education Department for school bus driver training program at the current level, which is $400,000. Funding to address the school bus driver shortage. Electrification of school bus fleet are all on the state budget priorities. Again, I have a copy up here, and you email me, reach out to me if you need a hard copy. Membership, we're still gaining new membership, both locally and at the state level. 10 new state members were approved on October 21st. One of them coming from Nassau, Daniel Bowsen from Malvern. So welcome to Daniel. Finances on the state are currently still being monitored and remain stable. Professional development, the NIAP certification program is still accepting applications. Details can be found on the NIAP website, or you can reach out to me privately and to discuss the program. If you join, all of the courses that NIAP offers will be sponsored by Leonard Bus at no cost to you. So that's still in effect. We've had 2 boot camp / study guide sessions that have already helped those involved prepare for the certification test. The next study session will be held via Zoom on November 10th. So again, if you join and once you're ready to take the exam, Christopher will come down to our area and meet up with you to administer the test. Plans for the virtual winter workshop are full speed ahead. There is some great content for the winter workshop, and it's currently being worked on by the State Professional Development Committee. Again, your input is invaluable. So if you think of any ideas you feel NIAP needs to address, or you want to hear, or that we can benefit from, please reach out to me, and I will get in touch with Lorianne, who chairs that committee, and we'll discuss it. Some important NIAP dates just to keep in mind. Our next NIAP Board of Directors meeting is December 5th. 2021 virtual winter workshop is set for February 18th and 19th. 2021 summer conference tentatively set for July 10th to the July 14th in Saratoga Springs. God, I hope we do that. We'll keep our fingers crossed. 2021 Safety Festival, July 10th. And the 2021 Summer Trade Show, again, Saratoga Springs, will be held July 11th. All right, so thank you. That is my state report. And again, I just wanted to do a couple of chapter reminders, just to let you know, everyone attending Zoom, after the chapter reminders, we're gonna have lunch over here. So instead of like last time we left you on and everyone watched us eat, so we're gonna go ahead and can't let you guys get to business after the chapter reminders. So again, joint meeting hosted by Suffolk at Lombardi's on the Bay. We're going to start meeting soon to discuss ideas for that meeting. I want everybody to think of nominations for state awards. I already have had a couple of National Night members approach me for nominations for state awards. So, I have a couple of Zoom meetings with them set up to discuss. So keep those ideas coming. Just to touch base with you, yesterday I had sent out an email in regards to the Bethany House. And this morning I sent out another email saying that we kind of pivoted. So there was some news that came to light from a National Night member that we had to address. We met as an executive board yesterday and have decided to kind of pivot. And we wish Bethany House all the best. But right now, we felt that it was best to support another charity. So we are supporting the John Thiessen Children's Foundation, which is a great charity. I think everybody knows the foundation. They're locally in Wantor located. So again, that's the charity we're going to be supporting, and their wish list went out to the membership today. Fundraiser ideas are being discussed for the spring. I do have a Zoom meeting set up with my membership committee for November 18th, and I kind of tasked that committee with coming up with some ideas for a virtual fundraiser in the spring. So we're going to discuss that, and then I'll bring it to the executive board, and we'll get something out to you soon. And as James mentioned, also the Nassau County Traffic Safety Committee Council has reached out to Nassau NIAP to form a partnership in regards to the stop arm cameras and the selection of vendors. Remember that whole hot topic that kind of like thought it kind of went on ice for a little bit, but it looks like it's starting to, or at least they're looking for it to pick up some steam. So we, through our communications, we did accept that, and we will be in contact with them. We're also going to take that opportunity to strengthen our partnership with them in regards to Operation Safe Stop. James and I have been going to these meetings for the past few years and kind of been pushing that Operation Safe Stop idea with them. So we're going to use this opportunity to bring that Operation Safe Stop to light, and hopefully, this year it gains a little bit more momentum in Nassau County. So other than that, I'd like to see if there's anything else. Anyone from the floor have anything else they want to anything else they want to add? All right. Anyone via Zoom? Oh. Okay. All right, everybody. So at this point, I'm going to let you all go virtually. I'm just going to, yes. like to have a motion to close the meeting. All right, Bob Pape, thank you. Is there a second?
James Bobkin?
James, thank you. James jumped in. All right, so thank you. All in favor? Aye. All right. Any discussions? No abstentions? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for a good meeting. Take care.
Thanks, Mark. Nice job.
Bye-bye.